Today is the 27th of March, and yes, I've technically already filmed this video and it is up on my channel, but I want to refilm it because I'm not 100% happy with it, and I know I've heard things on here where it's like, you know, you should either put like somewhere between 70 and 90% effort into something, because obviously nothing is going to be 100% perfect, but the audio isn't the best. I have had a few comments just about that, like just saying, yeah, I had good book recommendations, but my audio just wasn't the best, so I think I just want to fix it up, just change it up a little bit. Like, you can see me a little bit better now. I have a bit more natural lighting coming in and stuff like that. I will be clipping this to my shirt when I start, so I'm hoping that you can still hear me. I'm refilming because there was a few technical issues the first time, so we're fixing them up, and anyway, I'll quit rambling, but thanks for the comments and the likes and all that sort of stuff, and the, you know, support on that video. So yes, we're just going to refilm books I read in 2023, which was 54 books. So I'm going to try and go through them as quick as I can, give my opinion. I have a little bit more, I thought about these books a little bit more, so I might actually be able to give you a little bit more of an opinion than I did in that video. And also, like I said in that video, if it's something that's extremely popular on TikTok or online, I probably won't go into too much detail, because you don't need my opinion on every book that's already on the internet, because you've already heard from several other people. So there's a lot of books here that I do buy from op shops, so I'll probably go more in depth kind of with those ones, and I'll actually try and remember to explain the plot and everything of the book this time, because I didn't do that last time for some reason. For some reason I just was like, yep, this is good, and I just went to the next one like no one knew what it was about. So we're gonna just, you know, we're taking a step back and we're just redoing it, and I'm gonna think about it a little bit more and just put a little bit more effort in to just kind of making sure that you guys get a little bit more information about this and these books and stuff that I buy. So starting off, nothing's in order. Nothing is in order. I'm just going to pick what I can. I've got a few piles surrounding me right now, so I'll probably just pick up a pile and then just go through it and then pick up the next pile and go from there. So I'm actually going to start off with my hardcover books, because I don't have that many. You don't really find that many in Australia that are hardcover, actually, so it's like, it's kind of weird, hey, honestly, but anyway, I don't really mind. I don't need to have hardcover books. It's not that important. But starting off with Exposure by Kathy Reach and Brendan Reach. So this is a part of a series where basically I think a group of teenagers, I can't remember, because this is like the 4th book in the series, I think, so I'm pretty sure they either get like kidnapped or something happens in the first book and basically an experiment goes wrong and these teenagers turn into wolves, and they're basically kind of going about their lives and kind of navigating the world of, you know, being a wolf and kind of things like that. So it's like kind of Teen Wolf vibes almost, but it's actually good. They kind of solve some little mysteries and stuff. I don't think you really have to read them in order, but obviously if you're going to read this, just read it in order like every other series. If you want to read the series, just read it from the start. But because I just picked this up from an op shop, like I actually got through this, I was able to understand it, so yeah, it was pretty easy to read, and the writing's like huge, so it did not take me long to get through it all, and it actually made me want to read the next few books. So I think I might try and find them online, because I don't think I'll be able to find them at op shops or in stores anymore. I might just have to get it ordered in. But yes, I would recommend these. Kathy Reach, oh my god, I love her books so much. She has another series, it's got like 20 plus books in it, where you follow Dr. Temperance Brennan, and she basically solves all these crimes, and she's an anthropologist or something along those lines, forensic anthropologist, and I think Kathy Reach is that in real life, so it's like amazing just to see kind of her characters, and you know, she brings characters to life. It's just, her books are actually amazing. I love them so much. I would highly recommend Kathy Reach as an author to pick up if you can, and if you find her books at op shops, pick them up, because they are really good. They'll keep you on the edge of your seat. They're amazing, honestly. Next we've got The Secret Keeper by Kate Morton. Now, this is a thicker ass book. This is thick. It took me a little while to read. I love her books though. I mean, the writing is big, but it's just like, you know, it's just a lot. I love Kate Morton's books. I have a couple now that I've found at op shops, and I just keep buying them every time I see her books there. But it did take me a while to get into it. That's probably the main thing, is like you have to kind of give her stories a bit of a chance to kind of get into it, because I mean you got to kind of read the backstory, and there is a lot of kind of backstory with these characters in this book. For it to make sense, you've got to kind of, there's a past and present timeline in most of her stories, so you've kind of got to go back and forth a little bit just to get that background and kind of understand what the characters are going through and stuff in these. So it might take you a bit depending, but it did take me a little bit to get into, but it is so worth it. Her endings always have my jaws on the floor. I'm so shocked always by the ending of these stories, and I just love how it goes back and forth. I love kind of reading books that are written in the past, and then someone in the present has to kind of figure out what happened, or there's a family secret and they have to figure that out. But basically in this book it's saying, I might just read from the blurb for some of these, just like so you know kind of what you get into, because it's been a little while since I've read some of these books, so it might take me a little bit to like remember and jog my memory. But 1961, on a sweltering summer's day, while her family picnics by the stream on their Suffolk farm, 16-year-old Laurel hides out in her childhood treehouse, dreaming of a boy called Billy. A move to London and the bright future she waits to seize. But before the idyllic afternoon is over, Laurel will have witnessed a shocking crime that changes everything. It does include her mother in that crime, so she witnesses her mother doing something sketchy as hell, but it makes a lot of sense when you read it. And then we got 2011. Now a much-loved actress, Laurel finds herself overwhelmed by shades of the past. Haunted by memories and the mystery of what she saw that day, she returns to her family home and begins to piece together a secret history, a tale of three strangers from vastly different worlds. Dorothy, Vivian, and Jimmy, who are brought together by chance in wartime London, and whose lives become fiercely and faithfully entwined. Yeah, no, it's really good. I love her books. So like with that, that's kind of what you can expect from some of her other books, that similar kind of plot and stuff. But obviously she does change it up depending on the book. But I would highly recommend her books. They are actually amazing. I love them so much, and I always just get so drawn into the world, and it's just good. Next one, Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I didn't mind this one. I read this because a few friends wanted to start a book club, and this is the first book that I chose for it because we were taking it in turns. And the main thing I can say, because I think this has been like all over TikTok and stuff, is that I like how it's set in one night. Obviously, I've heard some bits and pieces of other people's opinions, because some people think that like the girl's so silly and the decisions she made are horrible and why would she do that. But I think because of what the book is about, it obviously all makes sense why she would make those choices, otherwise the book wouldn't be what it is, so it does make it interesting. Characters' personalities can change quite quickly, kind of in the middle towards the end, so there is kind of a bit of a really quick jump from like one to the other. So it can be like you kind of get taken aback going, whoa, what the hell, like this character was just really nice, one minute the next they're the complete opposite, like what's going on. But I mean, it does make sense why they kind of are. But yeah, the switches with some of the characters' personalities can be so quick. It's like, hold on a second, can we just wouldn't you'd probably lead up to it a little bit. But no, this is a good book. I would recommend it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. It took me like 3 days to read, so it was one of those easy reads. Next we've got An Unholy Whiff of Death. Now, I know this sounds pretty morbid, but it's by Joyce Cato, I think that's how you say it. And basically, when asked to judge the neighbouring village flower show, Vicar's wife Monica Noble is thrilled, even if she can't tell begonia, is it, from an azalea. Not sure what some of these plants are called. This year's competition is fierce, and when her fellow judge, a well-liked vicar, is killed, Monica must wake up and smell the roses. A second murder follows, this time a local scientist. Monica must help the police solve the two murders and find the killer quickly before anyone else dies. Now, this all takes place in the one day, which I think is pretty cool, but also a little bit unrealistic. You're not really going to solve a murder that quickly, especially two murders. But I actually really love this book. This book is so cute. I love it. I love the main character. There is multiple POVs, and I just like how it goes about it, just how they kind of get to that conclusion and how all the characters are kind of connected somehow with each other. So I would recommend her books. It's not gory. There's nothing really too bad about it. Like, it's just the title does seem a little bit morbid, but it's actually a really good book, and yeah, I would highly recommend. There's no like, I mean, there's a little mention of like blood and stuff, but it's not violent or anything like that. It's actually a really nice read. Next, Night Chills by Dean Koontz, I think is how you say it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Now, look, in the other video I filmed, I was a bit standoffish about what I should say about this, because I know that I think some of the older generation really likes this author, and I mean, I can see why, because he is a really good writer, and I mean, he got me feeling some emotions about some of these characters that were just like, it was a bit triggering. So yes, he's a good writer, and basically like the kind of aspect, I guess, of this story is, there's these few, I think, scientists or someone that are kind of dipping their toes into the art of subliminal messaging, and they're basically trying to test this theory out on a small town in like kind of the middle of nowhere, and they're seeing if they can kind of use subliminal messages to control these people in this town. And obviously everything goes wrong, things happen, but one of the characters kind of, because two of them, like in it for money and stuff like that, obviously, but one of the characters kind of takes it a bit too far, and he does some things that are quite triggering. So if you are going to read this book, I would suggest kind of checking the trigger warnings and just seeing if something in this is going to trigger you, because it was pretty dark, some things that I read, so I wasn't too happy with some section of this, but I really did kind of like the subliminal messaging part and how they kind of explain it, and how he's kind of made a story kind of based on that subject, and I think it's just really cool to read about. And he has a very unique writing style compared to like what I've read nowadays. But yeah, I would recommend it. I would just be careful about what's in it, because like I said, it was a bit triggering, and it wasn't very nice to read some of these scenes, honestly. It just was like, I just wanted to skip it, but I just kept reading just to kind of see if it was really even important to the storyline, which I try not to say too many mean things, and I would always just tell people to just read a book if they're curious about it. If they don't like it, they don't have to finish reading it, you can just move on. But it's not too bad. It's definitely, you can definitely tell when it was written and for what time, so I can just say that, and we'll move on. Next, I read Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Now, I put this book off for ages. I had this sit on my shelf for a long time, put it off for a while, was very intimidated by it, because, I mean, it's like, I've heard people say Bible pages, but these pages are a bit thicker, but there's just a lot. It's a long book. It was a bit hard to read because of kind of the writing style and stuff like that. Obviously, it was a bit hard to get into, but I'm glad I pushed myself to read it, because it actually turned out to be a really good book, and I kind of want to read more classics. I'm trying to read more classics this year, but we're not off to a good start, so we'll get there. But it was really good. I enjoyed reading that a lot. I mean, I did end up kind of, the main character did grow on me a bit more towards the end, and one of the characters is just a little brat. But anyway, we won't talk about her. And she didn't deserve him. Anyway, I think it was good. I really like their books, and Charles Dickens' books. I mean, he's an incredible writer for a reason. Obviously, everyone likes, if you've read a classic, you've probably read that book before, so it's really good. I would suggest, just trying to read a classic once in your life, see how you go, and moving on from there. But next book, The Loved Ones by Evelyn Waugh. I think I'm probably pronouncing half of these names wrong, but it's a tiny book. Like, it's that big. It's thin. It's basically about, following the death of a friend, poet and pet mortician, Dennis Barlow finds himself entering into the artificial Hollywood paradise of the Whispering Glades Memorial Park. Within its golden gates, death, American style, is wrapped up and sold like a package holiday. There, Dennis enters the fragile and bizarre world of Amy, the naive Californian corpse beautician, and Mr. Joyboy, the master of the embalmer's art. So there's a little bit of like a love triangle in this, but it's not really the main plot to it, so it's like a subplot, I guess you could say. It's not too important. There is a sad ending that I did not expect in this, so it was quite sad. But I actually like this. So there's a little bit of a backstory to this book too, because it's like, why would you read a book about a mortician? Fair enough, interesting. I personally was a mortician a couple months in my life, gave it a try, thought maybe that was something I wanted to go down, but it ended up not being the job for me, which is completely fine. I gave it a go. But while I was working in a different job, I got recommended this book, and I thought I'd give it a go, and it was interesting to see how they kind of did things back then, especially learning some of the stuff that I did in the short amount of time I was doing it. It's quite crazy how different things are, and even how similar things are still to when they did this, because this is set quite a while ago. Like, this is set like 18 or 1900s or something along those lines, but you know, interesting read. I would recommend it if you're kind of interested in kind of reading about that stuff, but you know, it's not too bad. It's not too gory or anything. There's nothing like bad about it, but yeah, also trigger warnings check, because there's a few little dark scenes in it, but you know, if you're not into that sort of stuff, then it's alright, not your cup of tea. Wouldn't recommend it then, but if you like it, recommend it. Next, I finished New Year's Eve, like not too long before like midnight or something, which was The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I got this given to me as a birthday present at the start of the year, and I didn't finish reading it. I didn't start reading it till December, so it took me quite a while. It's a huge book. It was insanely intimidating, but I got through it. I underlined quite a bit, just to get through it and just to kind of help me follow along with the storyline. And it's basically about these few boys that have kind of been like chosen by this, I guess, evil spirit in a way, and they're kind of trying to make it to this safe haven place where they will be safe, and you know, whatever's after them can't get to them, and obviously it's just about the journey and how they get there. I'm interested to see though what's going to happen across the next like 13 books, because I think there's about 14 in this series, so it'll be interesting to continue to see how long and also what you can possibly talk about for 14 books. But I would highly recommend it. It's like one of the original fantasy books, and it was amazing to read. I actually, even though it took me a while, did get a little bit frustrated with kind of just how long it took me and some bits being a bit confusing. I did actually really like it, and it makes me want to continue reading the series, so I would recommend it 100%. Next up, we've got the first 4 books in the Heartstopper series. Now, oh my god, I mean, I love these books so much. These are amazing. I love the storyline. I love the diversity of the characters. I love how you're kind of following these different characters' point of views. I mean, you're mainly following Nick and Charlie as they're kind of navigating how they're feeling and what's going on inside them and stuff like that, and you know, how they're kind of coming together in a way. But you are also following other characters that are their friends, and I think one of them's trans, they're all part of the LGBTQ plus community, if I'm saying it right. But yeah, no, it's so interesting to read about, because I think it's important to kind of, you know, for people to read stuff like this, especially nowadays, to kind of understand what's kind of going on. And I think Alice Osman does it in like such a lovely way, and just the way she writes it, it feels so real. The characters feel real, their experiences feel real, and it's just, yeah, I would highly, highly recommend this book. And also, you get to look at cute little comics all day. It's amazing. I love it so much. I love the art style. I like fell in love with these books because of the art style and obviously the messaging that is included in these books, but would highly, highly recommend. Favorite books almost of the year, I reckon. Next, we've got the first 3 books in this series plus 2 novellas, which is included in one book, and that is the Shatter Me series. Now, I see why this is popular. I put this off for a while, buying the book in general, because I was like, am I gonna like this? Like, it's so popular, but you know, you get on the fence about the books on Booktok. Anyway, love this series. I want to continue it. I have the novella up there for in between the next few books. I think I just have to get the next one and continue it and just go from there. But everyone knows what this series is about, so I won't go into it. But 100% would recommend. Love it so much. It's good. Aaron Warner. We won't say. And then we have got the Infernal Devices series. Now, I know I have the first one, Clockwork Angel, in the 10-year anniversary, I think, cover, and then the next two I just have these books. Honestly, this is also all over TikTok, so I won't go into detail, except that I ended up loving this series. I got so invested in the characters and their relationships and everything that was going on with them, and what was going to happen. I kind of looked a few things up because I was just, I just had to know, but I just was too impatient to wait, but I just wish I'd waited, because man, oh man, and I also didn't see some of the ending coming, so always wait, just read the books, and then look up what you want to look up afterwards. Don't be like me, look it up while you're in the middle of it, because it's just gonna spoil it for you. But oh yeah, I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved the world building, how you kind of following it along with Tessa. I just finished reading the first 3 books in the Mortal Instruments series, but I think following along with Tessa was a lot better, because you're kind of going almost from scratch with Tessa. I think I'm trying to say it just goes more in depth in the Infernal Devices series compared to the Mortal Instruments. But I could be wrong. I could have forgotten what's kind of going on in both books. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is I liked kind of following it along with Tessa, and I'm kind of glad I read that book before I read the Mortal Instruments series, because I don't know, for some reason I just am glad I read that first. But I would have completely understood if I'd read the Mortal Instruments series first and then gone to the Infernal Devices. So read them however you will, but either way, you'll still be able to follow along regardless of what I'm trying to say, because I don't even know anymore. Next is Kingdom of the Wicked series. My god, this book ends up being spicy as hell. Can I tell you? Spicy. Especially in this book. Oh my goodness. But I honestly love these books. I read them so quickly. I love the characters. Wrath. Oh my god. It was great. I love this. This is like, besides The Cruel Prince, this was like almost my first kind of introduction into the fantasy genre, because I didn't really read that much fantasy genres. I just read kind of whatever I could pick up at op shops or whatever looked interesting. But yeah, I'm so glad I read these and picked these up. It's basically about the demon Wrath and your main witch, I think, Amelia. And yeah, you're kind of just following along and how she meets him, and kind of figuring out her life, and she's kind of trying to solve a mystery, because I think there's a bunch of murders that go on in this book too. So you're following the storyline, and yeah, it's so good. I would recommend those books 100%. Then I've got The Stolen Heir by Holly Black, and I want to kind of I want to take a step back and review this book, because at first I was like, oh, I kind of wish it was in Oak's point of view. Like, you read all the stuff in the Cruel Prince trilogy where it's like, they're talking about Oak, and then you hear that there's going to be a book coming out about him, and then it was like, oh, this is in Ren's point of view, what's going on? But the longer I think about it, the more I actually like that it was in Ren's point of view too, because I heard the next book that's just come out, I think, that it's in Oak's point of view anyway, so I actually do think it's a good idea that they got Ren and her point of view and her story, because her story is quite sad. It's like, it kind of fits into reality almost. Like, sometimes you don't want people to see what you're truly like, because you think you're going to get judged, or, things like that. But I do like her point of view, because she is mentioned in the other books, so it is interesting to kind of see her background and what happened with her, and kind of how Oak interacts with her. But you're seeing it from her point of view, which I do think is really interesting too. But I am keen to see kind of what Oak's point of view, because he's such a main thing in the first 3 books, that, you know, I'll be keen to kind of see what goes on with him. So it'll be interesting to read now his point of view on what he thinks of Ren and their whole adventure that they've been on and stuff. So I can't wait for that, but it'll be good. Next we got Billy Summers by Stephen King. Oh man, this took me a little bit to read, but by the end of it, I was bawling my eyes out. Basically, it was so good. Stephen King is just an amazing author. So like, I mean, there's not really much to say because there are a lot of people that have read this anyway. But basically, he's one of the best snipers in the world, and he gets asked to do one final job, and everything that could go wrong goes wrong. So it kind of it mentions it in the book. It's very self-aware of kind of the trope that it is. So I think that's really good that Stephen King's added that detail. But yeah, you connect with the character. He gets in your good books, and he is a kind person. Even though like his background and what he does and stuff, it would seem like he might not be. But it's just, yeah, it tugs at your heartstrings. And man, oh man, did it make me cry at the end. So I would highly recommend Billy Summers too. So Stephen King's good. I really love him as an author, honestly. He's really good. But, well, maybe love's a strong word. I really like him as an author. That's better. Next is The Lucky One. Now, the first time I reviewed this, I didn't really go into too much detail. But basically, there's an old castle for more than 150 years. A grand house known as Alden Castle stood proudly in the rolling hills of California's wine country, home to a family weighed down by secrets and debt. A fresh body. So when the castle is sold, billionaire developers move in only to discover one skeleton after another, including a fresh corpse rotting in the old family cemetery. Then there's kind of an unsolved mystery aspect to it. As 3 generations of the well-respected Alden Stowe family come under scrutiny, police unearth a twisted web of rivalries, alliances, deceit, and treachery. A gold-digging wife, a demented patriarch, a daughter in the grip of first love, who has lied, who will survive, and who amidst all the horror and betrayal is the lucky one. So there is multiple POVs in this. I think you get like the police officer, you get the daughters, I think you even get the mother's point of view, and a few other things. And let me tell you, the ending was interesting. I mean, I did not see it coming. It kind of was a little bit oof. But anyway, it was a good book and I actually did really enjoy it. Like, what happens, and you know, people get their karma, good and bad, so they deserve what they got most of the time. Next is Paper Hearts and Summer Kisses. I got this from an Etsy shop from Blind Date Books. Oh, I love this actually. I love the crafting aspect. It's a romance, and I love how, because I know with some romances it can be like the main focus is the romance, but in this book, it says Christy Chapman is a single working mother who spends her days commuting to a secretarial job and looking after a teenage son, Finn. It can be tough just getting through the day, but Christy has always found comfort in her love of crafting, and any spare time she has spent working on her beautiful creations. From intricately designed birthday cards to personalised gifts, Christy's flair for the handmade knows no bounds, and it's not long before opportunity comes knocking. Christy can now see a future for her and Finn, one full of hope and possibility, and if the handsome Max Alexander is to be believed, one full of love too. It is there for the taking. It's all there for the taking, and then all of a sudden Christy's world will turn upside down. And yeah, basically it goes through her kind of choosing what she has to do, and you know, what's more important, her family or some random guy that she thinks is handsome she just met. And you kind of go through that, but I love the craft aspect of it all. It just adds to the story, and it gives the main character a lot more personality, and you can feel kind of how passionate she is about this hobby she does and something that she wants to do but is like unable to because she's got a kid, she's got to pay the bills, you know. And sometimes it's very realistic, you know. A lot of people kind of go through that these days, so yeah, it's understandable. But next, I Shot the Devil by Ruth McIver. Basically, this book is Erin Salone was 16 when high school senior Andre Villas was murdered by his friends. They were her friends too, led by the intense, charismatic Ricky Hell. 5 people went into West Suppress Road Woods the night Andre was murdered. Only 3 came out. So basically, it's all past, kind of present timeline in a way. You kind of go back to the few days before this murder happens, and it's kind of her just solving it so many years later when she's older, and looking back and figuring out what actually happened, because there's a little bit of romance, there's a little bit of mystery, there's secrets revealed, it's a whole thing, so it's actually really good. I enjoyed that book, so it was good. Next is The Storyteller's Handbook. Now this isn't a book, like there's no writing in it, there's mainly only pictures, but oh man, I got this for my birthday and I love it so much. I just thought I'd include it so I could show you guys some of these photos. They are actually stunning. And I think you basically take these prompts and you just write your own stories to kind of do with them. So it's like such an amazing idea. And if you're someone that wants to kind of get into writing, I would definitely suggest getting something like that and going from there. But I think it's created by Elise Hurst. So if you want to look that up, I would recommend. Next is The Virgin Blue by Tracy Chevalier. I can't pronounce her name, but basically, I highlighted this, I underlined this, I annotated this whole thing. It was good. Basically, the compelling story of two women born centuries apart and the ancestral legacy that binds them. So you kind of go past present timeline again. It's about this girl who's realised the girl in this painting, I think, is somehow related to her, so it's kind of her journey of how she finds out how she's connected to this girl and stuff like that. And then you also go back in time to the girl's point of view and kind of what led up to the events that happen in this book, and everyone finds out everything in the end. But it's a really interesting read. There are a few little triggers and dark things in this book, but it is kind of the time when the girl was technically alive, so some not very nice things happened, but I would highly recommend that book. It's amazing. I've read also The Girl with the Pearl Earring by her too, and that's a really good book as well. Would recommend those. Next is I Was Here by Gail Forman. This is an oldie, but good. Everyone probably knows what this is about, but basically Meg, the girl on the cover here, commits suicide, and Cody, her friend, kind of goes on this whole adventure to figure out kind of why she committed suicide. I mean, there is obvious reasons, but because Cody's young and stuff, and I think still in high school, it's like confusing for her. It's upsetting for her. She's feeling a lot of emotion, so she's kind of going through all this stuff and figuring out on her own. And it's quite sad to read about, but I think it's really interesting. And Gail Forman has definitely written it in a way that's like, you can kind of see into that and get a kind of glimpse of what families and stuff go through basically on a daily basis. So it's very interesting to read, and I would recommend it. But yes, there are a few triggers and stuff in there, so I would just see if it's appropriate for you and go from there. Then I read Where She Went. Honestly, I thought it was good. Like, it was fine. I probably didn't have to read it. I would have just been fine if I stuck with it if I stay and never read that book. But it's not bad. You can't just see where the characters are, in the present after everything that happened in the first book. So it is interesting to kind of read about that. But I didn't have to read it. It wasn't spectacular or anything. We're getting there. We're almost done. This has been 35 minutes. It's probably going to be freaking longer than the first video. We've got Murphy's Law by Rhys Bowen. Good book. I think most people have heard it. It's like there's 20 plus books where this young girl goes around solving mysteries, and you just follow her from book to book as she does that. So would recommend. I enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll pick up the other ones. If I find them, I might. But it wasn't too bad. Then we've got October by Richard B. Wright. This book, basically, in England to see his daughter Susan, who is gravely ill, James Hillier, a retired professor of Victorian literature, encounters by chance a man he once knew as a boy. Gabriel Fontaine, probably saying it wrong, a rich and attractive American he met one summer holidaying during the war, is a mercurial figure. Probably saying that wrong. Don't mind me, I'm just struggling to read over here. Badly crippled by polio. As an adolescent, James was both attracted to and repelled by Gabriel's cocksure attitude and charm. He also fell helplessly in love with Odette, a French-Canadian girl from the village, only to find himself in competition with the careless Gabriel. Now, at this random meeting over 6 decades later, as he struggles with the terrible possibility that he could outlive his own daughter, James is asked by Gabriel to accompany him on a final unthinkable journey. At last, James begins to see that all beginnings and endings are inexorably linked. I reckon, I would recommend this 100%. Like, this book is kind of eye-opening, honestly, and it's not too hard to read. The pages of, there's not too many pages. The writing's pretty spaced out, but it's eye-opening. I would recommend that book 100%. It was really good. It was a really good read. I definitely connected with the main character a little bit and kind of felt, what he was feeling and stuff. And he was a little bit of a brat when he was a kid, so that was a little bit hard to read, but it all makes sense in the end, and it all kind of comes full circle. So it was a nice book. Next, we've got Mother's Grimm by Danielle Wood. It's basically like, your Grimm Brothers tales, but it's about mothers and kind of putting a little bit of a wicked twist on their kind of stories and stuff like that. And they're just a bunch of short stories in there, so it didn't take too long to read, but I enjoyed it. I would recommend that one too. There's not too much to say, but it's basically like reading the Grimm Brothers books, so if you like that sort of stuff, I would recommend it. Then we've got The Witches by Roald Dahl. There's not too much to say about that, except it's a childhood classic, and I had to read it again when I found it at the op shop. Had to get it. Just good times. Had a good time. Next, we've got The Silent Patient by Alex, I don't know how to say his last name, but that's him. This was good. I feel like towards the end, I almost kind of seen that maybe these characters were connected somehow, because it obviously, it's when you get towards the end, it kind of gives you a little bit to like say, are you gonna guess, or have we still got you on the edge of your seat? But no, I was a bit shocked by kind of everything that happened at the end, and it was a really good book. It kept me on the edge of my seat. I was wondering the whole time what was going on, how they were all connected, and things like that, and if she was ever going to talk, and it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot, and it's all over TikTok, so I won't go into detail about it. Then we've got The Lost Apothecary, by Sarah Penner. Also another one that I think has been all over Booktok. But basically, it's another past and present timeline. A girl finds like this bottle on the beach somewhere, and it turns out to be connected to a shop that used to sell poisons and herbs and stuff like that. Tries to figure out what happened in the past and kind of how this bottle is connected and how it came to be on the beach and stuff, and just kind of figuring out what happened. I think it's really interesting. It's like a little mystery she's sorting out while she's figuring out while she's basically on holiday overseas. So I did enjoy this a lot. I love kind of the poison and the herb aspect. Next we've got Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I got Six of Crows for my birthday last year, and I heard that you're supposed to read Shadow and Bone and stuff first, and then you read these two books. But honestly, if you really want to read these, just read them. It doesn't matter too much. I think there's like the tiniest spoiler, but I don't think it really does anything to, it doesn't spoil it too much at all. So you can read this and then go back and read the first one if you really want to. But also this is all over Booktok, so I won't go into detail, except to say that I love this, and it makes me really, really, really want to read the first trilogy in this series. And I love this book so much. It was great. Kaz, good times, and Nej, good stuff. I love it. It's great. And then we've got A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, plus the novella Killjoy, and I also love these books. Oh my god, I loved these books. This series was amazing. I would highly recommend. It's just written so well. It's a quick read. Well, I say quick, but it's an easy read. You don't have to think too hard about it. It's just, I loved these books so much, and I kind of want to read them again, because just like looking at them, I just want to read them over and over again. And I read the novella in like one day, because I just flew through it, but I love these so much, and I would highly recommend. Then we've got One of Us is Lying, also another book that's all over Booktok. you've got kind of some very obvious tropes in this book. You got the geek, you got the prom queen, you got the outsider, you got the jock, you got the, all that sort of stuff, and then one of them gets killed, and who is it? It was a light read. I liked it a lot too. It was good. Then we've got, I'm just going to add these three together because they're all romances, just to get this video moving. We have got The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. We've got You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle, I think. Then we've got Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I loved all three of these books. You Deserve Each Other, I took a bit longer to kind of read with it. It took a little bit. It was like, it just kind of, some bits felt like slightly unnecessary in my, but then as I kept reading it, it all made sense, and it kind of made, a big full circle moment, and it was like, okay, no, all that information was definitely necessary to kind of get to this conclusion, which I ended up loving. But if you want to read like, some romance books, some light, they made me laugh out loud too, I'd recommend these three. Definitely, I want to read them again. They're just so good. I love them. Then we've got Red Rising. Now, I was just it took me so long to read this book. It was insane. It took me so long, but because it was taking me a while. I was like not being able to wrap my head around it. I thought, how many times can you describe the scenery around you? But as I kept reading, I ended up really liking it. I got really, really into it from probably like halfway to the end. And just after kind of the initial world building was set up and the characters were introduced and stuff like that, I really got into it. And I would be keen to keep going and reading the next book. I really like it. I don't normally read sci-fi, so this was like, a bit of an eye-opener for me, and I loved it. I love this book. Can see why it's also popular too. And am so keen to just get the next book, and I would highly recommend reading this if you want to try sci-fi out and, dip your toes into this genre. I think this would be probably a good place to start. Yes, it does take a little bit of brain power to read it, but once you kind of get past that initial world building, it'll be a lot easier to get into and you'll understand it. It was really good. I'd highly recommend. Then we only got a few left. We've got A Map of Days, which is the fourth book in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. Also love these books too. I mean, it's been a long time since I've read the first three, so it took so long for my memory to kind of come back and to understand what was really going on, for me to jog my memory. But I love the kind of pictures in here, and you've got pictures of like the peculiar people and where they're staying and kind of the surroundings and stuff like that, and it just really brings you into the book a lot more because it's like you're seeing these things with the characters and you get to experience it as well, and it's just like, I just love it so much, and I think it's really good too. And I would recommend these books. They're like probably YA and stuff, but I did like them, and I probably will finish the series because I've read the first four now, and there's only two more left, I think. So I'm like, I might as well finish it. I do enjoy those books; they're a good read, and they're good. I enjoy them definitely. Next, we've got The Midnight Library, which is also all over Booktok, but I thought this book had like a really good message, especially at the end, and I completely agree with kind of her choice at the end, how she felt. It just, it's definitely something that's a bit hard to write about. But I think this author did an amazing job, Matt Haig. I think, I really love this book so much, and I love how it goes between kind of her different lives and what could have been, and her decision at the end. It was like also one big full circle moment, which I enjoyed a lot, and would highly recommend that too. We've also got Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is the only Colleen Hoover book I have, because I don't know what other Colleen Hoover book to buy, because everyone is so on the fence about her books. You either love her or you hate her, but I'm glad I chose this one to read because this was amazing. It took me a couple of days to read. I was hooked. I was like, I couldn't sleep so much when I was reading it because it was just so freaky, but it was just amazing, and I would highly recommend someone to read that. If you're going to read Colleen Hoover, at least read Verity. You don't have to read any others, but read Verity. It was amazing, but it's like a bit twisted, so just make sure that the triggers that nothing's going to trigger you or anything, but would 100% recommend. It was a very good book. Then we've got the Book of Halloween. This is just one of those random books I have on my shelf, and it just basically takes you through the history of Halloween. I am like obsessed with Halloween, so that's why I've got it. I've always loved Halloween. That's why I love my special effects makeups. I like it so much. I want to learn more about it, so I got that book, and yeah, no, it was an interesting read, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it if you're not into it. Otherwise it'd just be so boring. It'd be like reading a school textbook. And lastly, we've got How to Catch a Witch by Abby Longstaff, which this is like a children's book or a YA book. Like it's not that big. It didn't take me that long to read, but basically, what is it? Nothing has gone right for Charlie since her family moved. The house is creepy, school makes her nervous, and the village seems odd, spooky, almost magical. Charlie is drawn into a tale of the unexpected, a tale in which good must do battle with evil over an ancient curse, a tale in which Charlie will play a much bigger part than she ever imagined. Which, I don't know if there's more books with this character in it. I think there may be, I might be wrong, but yeah, I thought it was like a really nice read. It's like a little YA book, so it's like, yeah, kind of basically what it's about is what happens and you move on, but I enjoyed it a lot. So that is all. Oh, and I read Daily Dracula basically from like May to November, so that counts as my 54th book. But yes, that is basically the 53/54 books I've read in 2023. Holy moly, was it a big list? But man, there was a lot of genres and stuff that I read for like the first time kind of last year, and I'm glad I experienced new genres, and I would always recommend, especially like going to an op shop and reading books that you find there, because there's a lot of things that I wouldn't have read unless, I'd picked them up and decided to read them, and I'm glad I did, because yeah, there's so many books that I've just, and so many authors that I've now found that I really like and I want to continue reading. So it definitely opens your eyes, like picking books from op shops and things like that, because, most of them are also older books and most of them aren't all online, and it takes kind of that pressure off when you're, shopping at op shops to find books that you actually want to read and that interest you, because I feel like nowadays kind of going into Big W and going into like Kmart or, the bookstores that are around my area, I feel a bit of pressure, because there's so many Booktok books that are around, and don't get me wrong, most of them are really good books, and most of these here are from Booktok, and I did enjoy them, but I feel like it just takes off, like I said, that pressure, because I can feel like, oh, there's that book there and I want to read that, and that's all over Booktok, and there's that book and that's really popular, it looks really good, I want to read that, and then before I know it, my TBR pile has built up so much because I keep buying all these books. But no, so I reckon just do what you feel good about, read whatever you want to read, and don't let everyone online pressure you into reading a certain book. If that's what you want to read, go ahead, but I'd just say step out of your comfort zone, read something from an op shop or a cheap bookstore, and give something a go, because you never know, it could be the best book you've ever read, is really all I'm saying at the end of the day. Some nice message to end the video. But yes, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for putting up with deleting videos and adding them back on again. We'll get there. We will get there. But yes, I'm thinking about doing a video where I go through the books on my TBR shelf, because there's like quite a few up there. I thought, maybe people might find that interesting. I'm about to upload another video, or it might already be out by the time this one goes up, of me reading the Mortal Instruments series, so go check that out if it's already up. If not, I'll see you in the next one, and we'll go from there. Bye!